Hi, my name is Ellie Sutton.
And I'm Lillian Clark. Today we're going to be talking about Translanguaging in Every Classroom by Michael W. Cole.
And we will start off with a summary portion. So this article is about the importance of translanguaging in the classroom. And the way that this article identifies or describes or defines translanguaging is when a student is able to use both or all of their languages in a fluent and dynamic way. And it really creates this rich, amazing experience for them. Um, and then one thing that's super interesting that this article really focused on is that students who speak more than one language, that is becoming increasingly more common in the United States. So take it a few decades ago or just the last little bit, it wasn't super common, but as more and more immigrants are coming to the United States, they're also bringing their amazing cultures and their amazing languages, and so there's so many more students who are coming in and speaking other languages. I really loved just the scenario that they shared in this, and one of the things that this article talked about was imagine for any of us to be able to not use our own language with our peers as we're having to learn a new academic content in a new language. And I think just this article having that perspective was super important for all the readers. And they explained a few other translanguaging tools such as Cognates, collaboration, translation, and preview, view, review.
Yeah, I really liked all of the different, examples that he gave for how we could use translanguaging in our classroom and I guess what that would look like. I think that was really helpful. Um, yeah, especially with the cognates and like you having translating assignments and like the preview, like you're talking about. I think that's just really cool and good ways to implement the translanguaging idea because it allows students to think. I guess the idea is that translanguaging allows students to think in their natural way and like the way that they actually would think through problems and just use everything that they have available to them to come up with solutions instead of like strictly separating things into English or Spanish or Portuguese or Italian or whatever languages they speak. Um, yeah, because that's more like a societal like separation, and it's because of geography and how language has developed over time. But when you speak more than one language, you're not necessarily making those like distinct separations in your brain, which I thought was really interesting to read about. Um, yeah, and so all the time, these students are using their translanguaging or their multilingual skills to translate to their parents and to help out in their family situations. That could be like in a doctor's appointment or a parent-teacher conference. They might translate for their parents and just kind of help facilitate that like fluidity between languages, I guess, and solve problems. So it's important in our classroom that we can use translanguaging and help our students to develop those skills that they will realistically need and be using in real life. Um, yeah, so I think that's just really important that we can help our students to develop those skills, but also think more deeply about text and language in the way that it's used. Translanguaging can be a really good idea to help our students um, think deeper and better understand the things that they're reading and learning about. I really liked the example of having them translate like metaphorical text, like
Mm-hmm.
exactly back and forth, word for word, because that helps them to think about the meaning and how language can be used um, to convey something, I guess, more abstract than what we normally do, which I thought was really
Yeah, no, I love that. Um, okay, we'll now transition over to the praxis portion. Um, so we've had the opportunity in our TEL 440 class to write our own lessons and with supports and make adjustments. And as we learned these different things, I was particularly impressed with the preview, view, and review strategies that was also talked a lot about in this article. And I just love that because it just makes so much more sense to me. I don't know if I would have been able to come up with it on my own, but like once I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I think this is exactly what students need and would totally benefit from. Um, where they're able to understand and view things in their home language first, so that they have that background context. You know, if we're learning about agriculture, and that huge long word agriculture would probably be maybe a little bit confusing, but if we talked about, oh, corn and you know, and rice and all these different vegetables, but say those also in their own home language, then it'd be so much easier for them. And then to view, where they would read it and understand it in English, and then to review again. So any new concepts that might have been confusing in English, they'll learn it in their home language. I just think that's so neat and such a great way to really help each English language student, English language learner, have that good foundation, but also to solidify any new concepts or vocabs that they may have been learning in their home language. So that's something that I really want to integrate into all of my lessons, because I think it's just a great way to make sure all of your bases are covered, but to also make sure that the students are able to develop both languages or multiple languages.
Yeah, I also really like that idea, and I remember talking about that in our other class. Um, yeah, what I think about for this article is that I really want all of my students to know that they are encouraged to speak several languages in the classroom and to use, I guess, everything that they know how to use in order to solve the difficult and, I guess, hopefully academic challenging work that we'll be doing. And especially the cognate study idea, I thought that was cool just because it helps our students to, I guess, participate in the classroom in a way that they wouldn't be able to otherwise, and to see, like, in front of the entire class that everyone's learning a little bit of, French or whatever language they speak, because their language is important too to understanding the content and the material that we're talking about in class. So I think that would be a really good idea to help include them in the classroom, and also to help other students kind of cross over that bridge and be like, oh, like learning another language is hard, and trying to pronounce it can be hard. And then they can be like, but look, this kid, they can do it, and they can recognize that skill that their peers might have. And I don't know, I just think that would be a really good way to show appreciation for their linguistic abilities and skills. So I want to implement that, and just make sure that everyone knows that they're welcome and valued.
That's really cool. Thanks, Lily. We will now be talking about the reflection portion. And overall, I really like this article. I felt like it was short, sweet, and to the point, but accurately expressed the importance of translanguaging, and also gave multiple ways in which translanguaging could be applied. And as I've stated before, I just think that articles, when they actually have not only problems, but also solutions, are very beneficial and very enjoyable to read.
Yeah, I also thought that this article was enjoyable to read. Like, it wasn't super, like, dense, but it had really good information that was useful and practical to be used in the classroom. I also really liked all of the examples. Like, every time it gave a strategy or a suggestion that we could use, it also gave, like, how that would look in a classroom and what it might look like, or how it might help our students. So I thought that was really helpful. It helped me to envision it and feel like, hey, like, this is something that I can do. It's not super theoretical or, like, out of reach, but something that I can actually implement in my classroom. So I just really, really appreciated this article for that reason.
I love it. Thank you.